Everybody. This is Theo from Clemente Collector, and I have a special guest on today for my seventh episode of Behind the Cards. This is Al from Iconic Baseball. Welcome to the channel, Al.
Thank you, Theo. It's an honor to finally meet you. I've been watching your channel
Yes,
for months.
And it's great to have. I think you're my first fellow Pittsburgher on Behind the Cards, so that's an honor to have you on here. So thank you for coming on.
Heck yeah, representing with the Yingling and the Pucko hat.
Yeah, I got my jersey on. So if anybody is watching this and you don't like listening to a bunch of Yinzers talk, you might want to go. So I'm just giving you a heads up. Be a good amount of Pirates talk today, probably.
Yeah, get out of here.
So exactly. So the first thing I actually wanted to start with is your channel's called Iconic Baseball, and your name's Iconic Al. So the chicken or the egg? What happened first?
Well, the channel came first. I don't know how you got the name Clemente Collector. I mean, I feel like you got lucky too. I felt like I got real lucky when I wanted to start a YouTube channel, and I was looking at channel names. I was like, all right, well, what would my ideal channel name be? And so I started looking up, hey, is anyone taking Iconic Baseball? It was really my first choice. And so I looked into YouTube and said, hey, was there any Iconic Baseball channel already? And I was dumbfounded that there wasn't. Like, somehow that name hadn't been taken yet. And so I was like, man, this is a sign. I better do this. And so back in like late 2021, I think, is when I grabbed that channel name. And then I went on Instagram. I thought, no way is that channel available on, or that channel available on Instagram, but it was. So I ended up getting the Instagram name, like one word, Iconic Baseball. And then on YouTube, just Iconic_baseball. So the channel came first. I'm still amazed that I even got that name, because it seemed like it's a no-brainer. Like, someone has to have taken that before me, but no.
Yeah. So did you make yourself Iconic Al, or did somebody say in the comments one day and you ran with it?
It was just kind of a joke. Like, obviously, I'm not calling myself Iconic. I'm calling like the players that I collect are iconic, and so thereby I am Iconic Al because of what I collect is iconic. But like, no, it was more just like a tongue-in-cheek. It was a joke at first, and then I started like recording my first video, and I was like, well, that'd be kind of funny if I just introduced myself as Iconic Al, and then I just went with it after that.
That's great. That's awesome. So I've started a new thing just last Behind the Cards episode, and I'm starting off with an icebreaker. So I got something special cooked up for you. I know you're into the best players of all time, and a lot of times you look at WAR, and so I looked at some WAR numbers on Baseball Reference for this. I'm calling it the Art of WAR, and it's going to be 10 former Pirates that I grew up watching.
Okay.
And you have to guess their WAR plus or minus 2.
Wow,
so,
that's tough.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. But there's some of my favorites in here, and I know you watched them because we're similar age. So let's start off Bobby Bonilla's WAR.
Bobby Bonilla's WAR, man, he had a pretty long career. He was way overpaid. I would say maybe like 25.
30.2.
So, okay.
You weren't too bad, but you don't get the point on that one. One of my favorite third basemen of all time. I grew up. He's the first third baseman I remember watching. Jeff King.
Jeff King, yeah, I remember him too. That was like the first team that I grew up watching too. The early '90s Pirates.
Okay, there you go. Yep.
Yeah, he was a good player. He was an all-star, I think, a couple times.
Yeah,
I would say I'd also put him in that 20 WAR, like maybe 20 WAR.
Oh, he's at 17. You were close.
You're killing me, man.
I know. All right, I'm gonna move up a little bit. The pitcher that kind of turned the team around, AJ Burnett.
Oh,
Batman.
Yeah. Batman, yeah. He had a pretty long career as well. A lot of strikeouts.
Yeah.
I would say 26 WAR.
28. You get the
point. All right.
There you go. You're on the board. All right. Next one. We talked about it before. Jason Bay, Baywatch.
Uh-huh.
I sat in left field and got to see him play a lot. What do you got for Jason Bay?
Yeah, Canadian, great player. Uh,
Yep,
he had a bunch of big years,
he did.
but then trailed off. You know, he didn't have a long peak. So I would say probably for Bay, I would say maybe he got to 28 WAR.
25.
Okay.
You were just off again.
All right.
Here's one that shocked me. So I'm gonna give you a little clue there. It shocked me. Brian Giles.
Oh yeah. He could mash. Yeah. I would say
Yeah.
for Giles, 32 WAR.
He had a 51 WAR.
Whoa.
When I read it, I was shocked also, and I went and there's actually articles about why Brian Giles should be a Hall of Famer. And it was I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. He had an 8-year stretch that was ridiculous actually, and I cheered for him, but I was so young at the time I didn't realize that he was that good. So
Right.
that one was definitely a hard one. Denny Nagel, one of my favorite pitchers as a child.
Yep, Cy Young Award winner. You got to love Denny Nagel. I would say he was the ace for a few years. I would say maybe like a 21 WAR.
22.
Okay,
good job. Good job. If you hit one on the nose, I'll give you like an extra bonus point here.
Sweet.
One of my favorite shortstops of all time, Jack Wilson, Jumpin' Jack Flash.
Well, his defensive WAR would be much higher than his offensive WAR. But it's all wrapped into WAR. So I would say
I think he had one season where he won the batting title, I believe, but I might be wrong on that.
I think you're thinking of Freddie Sanchez.
He's actually next.
Okay. Yeah, I don't believe Jack Wilson ever won a batting title, but Freddie Sanchez did. Jack Wilson, just because of his D WAR, I would think Jack Wilson's probably in that like 26 WAR range.
24.
Okay.
So I'll give you the point on that one. Good job.
Yeah.
All right. You're on a roll here. Then Freddie Sanchez.
Freddie Sanchez, yeah. He had a very short peak, but again, he was phenomenal for a couple of years there, but then didn't really have much of a career after that. So I would say like maybe 15 WAR, something like that.
16.
Okay.
Good job. There you go. All right. I think my wife would say her favorite catcher is Jason Kendall. She thought he was hot, so she would always go to the games before she met me. She loved Jason Kendall, but my favorite catcher in Pirates history is Russell Martin.
Yeah, he was awesome.
He had a short time with us, but he was part of the turnaround that we had. So, what is your guess for Russell Martin? He had some. He actually had at least one Gold Glove year, I know.
Yeah,
but I felt bad. He had Molina. He had Molina in the same in the same division as him, so it kind of sucked.
Right.
So,
for Russell Martin, I would say maybe like 26 WAR for him.
39.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
that impressed me. Oh.
Yeah. That was one of the that shockers. And then last but not least, somebody who I always bring up, Kevin Young. Do the splits at first base. What is your guess for Kevin Young's WAR?
Yeah. That dude was such a good signer too. Like he signed everything that we ever brought. We would go to batting practice and KY would sign all of our cards. He'd be like, yeah, what else you got? You got something else for us to sign?
Wow.
He signed everything. He was such a friendly guy.
That's awesome.
But WAR-wise, I would say probably in the 28, 29 WAR. Let's say 28.
You're over. He had a 6.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. It was really bad. I know. So we're done with the game. A couple guys who missed the cut for me is I almost gave you Jason Grilli and Tony Womack. So you missed out on those two guys.
Yeah.
So you got 1, 2, 3. You got 4 right. It's not an easy game.
It's fun. I'll play this all day.
Like I said, Brian Giles was the big revelation for me. I was shocked. But so you grew up in Pittsburgh, right? So whereabouts in Pittsburgh did you grow up?
Well, when I was real little, we grew up in Green Tree area, and
so
I lived there with my parents and my brother until I was about 7, and then we moved to the South Hills, the South suburbs, to Upper St. Clair, and so then basically went through Upper St. Clair High School and That's where my parents still live.
Nice. That's awesome.
Where do you live?
So I grew up in like, all right, so it's more of east of Pittsburgh. I grew up. It's like a half an hour from West Virginia. It's the town's called Perryopolis, Pennsylvania.
Okay, yeah.
It's very close to Uniontown.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was kind of, it was kind of a big deal when we drove into the city for whatever, for a Pirates game. I remember, the local we called it was a gun club in our town. Every year, a couple times they would get a charter bus and we would go to Three River Stadium and go see a game, and they'd have drinks and chips on the bus, and it was a big deal to go in to go see a game at that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I know Uniontown. We drive through Uniontown almost every summer because we camped at a YMCA camp out. It's called Deer Valley YMCA camp, and my family camped there every summer. And Uniontown was about halfway to Deer Valley, so we would drive through Uniontown basically, like every time.
That's awesome. That's really cool. When did you start watching? When did you start watching sports that you can remember? And when did you start collecting?
It would have been like the late '80s. I was 7 or 8 years old when I got my first baseball cards, and I was probably 1989. Was the first pack that I could remember buying was like '89 at the local pharmacy, and ripping that. It still had bubble gum in it, so I can say that I'm old enough to remember actually getting bubble gum in baseball cards, where you can't. Kids these days, that's a foreign concept to think, hey, you're buying some cards with bubble gum in them.
Exactly. That's pretty cool. I never remember buying any. My first time collecting was like '92 area. It was basketball, the Upper Deck basketball cards.
Sure.
But I got a lot of Donruss baseball growing up, and
yeah.
it's crazy going back through those cards and just seeing how many different companies had baseball cards at that time, and like you don't realize it as a kid. You're just like, cards are cards, kind of. I kind of felt like at the time. So
yeah, and it was so mainstream. I mean, everyone, like every kid had cards. You were kind of weird if you didn't. If you didn't have
exactly
a binder with some cards in it and traded with the local kids, like you were kind of like a weirdo.
Yeah, exactly. Did you play any sports?
Yeah, I always played baseball and basketball growing up. And
nice. Me too.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I love your trick shots, man. They're pretty impressive. You still got
appreciate that. Yeah. Well, I got 2 kids, and they started playing basketball, and I always had a pretty good handle. So I kind of, it's like it feels like it's riding a bike sometimes with your dribble. Like it kind of just comes back. So it's kind of fun. But yeah, it's cool. So did you have a sports hero growing up that you kind of looked up to for like a pretty long time that you can recall?
Probably my first ball player that I looked up to was Andy Van Slyke. You might be, I think I have a couple of years on you, but yeah. Andy Van Slyke was like the all-star center fielder, and then Bonds was playing to the one side of him. But I just remember as a kid loving Andy Van Slyke, and I had I had a baseball hat, a Pirates hat, and I had written Alan Van Slyke under the under the bill because I wanted to be Andy Van Slyke. Yeah,
that's awesome. I caught the very tail end, and I got to see Bonds at the tail end. I just missed the Atlanta Braves game, which might be a good thing. So I'm trying to recollect. Like I said, I didn't live through it. Who Bonds was the left fielder who made who tried to throw the ball into home, and I'm trying to think who the catcher was. Do you remember?
I think it might have been LaValliere still.
Okay.
Or Don Slott, one of the two. But it was
because as I recollect, it was more on Bonds than anything else, right? That was a bad throw.
Yeah, it wasn't the greatest throw, and I think Francisco Cabrera was the one that actually blooped the single, and I think Sid Bream might have been running.
Yeah. I remember that name for sure.
But yeah, that was a crushing defeat, and I was 10 years old when that happened. So that was '92.
Yeah.
I was 10 years old, and I remember crying. I remember being like bawling my eyes out on the in the living room floor because I thought we were pretty much one out away from going to the World Series, and
I know.
it was a matter of getting one more strike, I believe it was, and it came right down to that, and then Cabrera blooped the single, 2 runs scored, I believe, and that was it. That game was over. It was a walk-off, and that was crushing. The Pirates never came close to getting back to that level in the playoffs ever since.
Yeah, see, I didn't, since I just missed it. I never had that feeling with the Pirates ever. You know, when I was in college was whenever they made their runs with McCutchen. So, you know, the first time I cried over sports that I can remember is the '95 Super Bowl between the Steelers and the Cowboys, and Neil O'Donnell quarterback. Yep. And I would have been like 11. So that was pretty crushing. I thought for sure we were going to win the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah.
So
there were others, you know. With the Pirates, there were no others, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Who influenced you to be a collector? Did you have any siblings, or you're just your friends, or what?
Well, I think just having a younger brother, I kind of forget who really got me into it, but I think just growing up, you know, my dad has always been a big collector of things. Even before we started collecting baseball cards, he had, you know, coin collection, and he had a rock collection. Still has a great rock collection, like rocks and minerals.
That's cool.
And when we were younger, we started getting into cards. Then he got into cards, so he was collecting with us, and he ended up just building this insane Barry Bonds player collection. And he reached a point there a couple of years ago where he had the largest Barry Bonds player collection in the country.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and so he's retired, and he's been kind of moving those cards along one at a time, a few at a time, you know, to other collectors that he knows that are trusted. He's got like his own little network, his own little community of Bonds collectors that he's, kind of strategically moving those cards along to. And he's having actually a really good time doing it. It's actually a really nice retirement project for him. But he has this insane Bonds collection still. And
that is really awesome. You know, that's kind of funny because like you said, like I kind of got back into cards. My kids, my son wanted to collect Pokemon, and I dusted off my old Pokemon cards, and then I found out my dad had baseball cards, so that kind of kicked me back into baseball cards again. And you know the biggest card I cherish in my collection is my Barry Bonds rookie card that isn't really worth anything, but I got it from my grandpa, so you know it means something to me, you know, and I think that's really cool. I think next time you're at his house, I think you should sit down with him and show some of the cards he does have left or any memorabilia. I think that would be an awesome. I think that'd be an awesome show.
Yeah, he's gifted a couple. He's gifted a couple really nice cards to me over the past couple of years, and I certainly will show them on my Bonds episode. It's coming.
Cool.
But that's not a bad idea. He's had PMGs, and like I don't know, I'm not sure if he still has any of the PMGs or the real high end. He's got a few of the high end stuff he's moved along, but that's not a bad idea.
That'd be cool. Like I just said, I had periods where I didn't collect. I had periods, you know, where I started back up. Did you have a period there where you stopped collecting and then you re-jumped in?
You know, not really. Even through college and grad school, like maybe I wasn't as frequent with it. It wasn't like completely front of mind, but I'd still be strategically picking things up whenever I could afford them. Whenever I could pick something up, like, hey, here's my chance to get a Paul Wainer autograph. I'm going to do it. And I remember I remember picking up the Ty Cobb autograph that I have. I picked up in like sophomore year of college because I had a little extra. Like I had some extra money left over from books. My grandma had sent me some money to buy some textbooks, and I didn't need that money for the textbooks because it was like some extra. And I was like, here's my chance. I used that money to buy a Ty Cobb autograph.
Wow.
So it's just like
that was a good investment too.
Yeah. I think it's about quintupled in value since then. So I'm glad I bought it when I did.
That's cool. Was that on a baseball?
It's actually a bank check. It's a canceled check.
Oh, okay. I think I did actually see you show up before. Okay.
Yeah. A while ago, but yeah.
yeah, but I remember. So what kind of switching gears more to the YouTube side of things? What was some YouTube channels that maybe influenced you, or weren't there any that kind of you kind of saw, and then you're like, oh, I can do this too. And what were they?
Yeah, it was really during the pandemic. I didn't even know there was a YouTube community for sports cards or um, autographs and things like that. But I was spending less time working during the pandemic because I'm a physical therapist, and really what I do is hands-on. I treat spine-based injuries for a living, and so there was a period of
Yeah.
a few months there where I couldn't really be in person at the clinic for a while when COVID really first hit, and so I was at home just like messing around watching YouTube, and I forget what I searched or whether it was just the algorithm knew that I was into this stuff, but I pulled up YouTube and I think it was one of Dustin's videos, the sports card dad, and came across
Oh,
like one of his videos. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I think once I watched that video, and then more of them were kind of funneled to me, and I found Mike Baseball Collector and some other like bigger channels in the sports card space, and then I started
yeah.
watching them. I started like watched them for about a year before I started to think to myself, this is something that I might have a lot of fun doing, because I have this collection that I've been forming for 30 years, and I feel like I've gotten it pretty narrow. I've gotten it pretty focused, and that's really what I'm most proud of is my ability to keep it focused over the years and actually become a lot more focused in recent years. And so
Yeah.
then I formalized my top 100 list during that time and thought, hey, this would be fun to kind of like do a series of videos outlining each one of my top 100 players, count my way up the list. And if anyone gets anything out of it, great. I mean, it's just my list. But hey, if it inspires someone to collect their top 100 or collect their top 50 or organize their collection in a way, like collect your top 10 Pirates or your top 20 Chicago Bulls or whatever sport, whatever you're into, it's the focus that I was hoping to kind of inspire
Yeah.
in a similar way.
Well, when I first got on your channel, I'm like, this guy's a genius. This is the most evergreen topic you could ever go
Right.
on to. Like, like the funny thing about YouTube is people keep saying, oh, like when I make this video, like anybody will watch it a year later, blah blah blah. But it doesn't happen that way. People
Right.
don't go back to old videos. It's so rare. But you actually have a hook there where somebody would possibly scroll down and go, okay, well, what did he have at 88, 87, and kind of work their way up. So it's a really good evergreen topic. Not saying that you did it on purpose, but I thought that was genius.
Well,
So
thank you. I mean, I did think about it. I thought, however, wherever someone finds me at, whether they find me when I'm on my 60-second video or whether they find me on my like number 43 video, they'll realize what I'm doing. And if they're interested in it, they can go back. And I've started a playlist now because I just found that feature like last week where you can create a playlist.
yeah,
And so I've added all my top 100 videos to my top 100 playlist. And so you can start
sweet.
at the beginning of my top 100 playlist at 100 Michael Jordan, and it'll just take you
Yep.
through and you can binge all of them that I've done to this point. And so I just figured that out. But yes, I'm hoping that I'm creating videos that people will just could watch anytime, and they're not topical, so that kind of hurts the algorithm. I feel like you might get more
Right.
views if you do the clickbaity stuff, if you do like the news, reacting to the new thing that PSA just did, or reacting to the new thing that I don't know Fanatics just did. Those probably
Right.
get more clicks, but I feel like my videos people will go back 4 years from now and still be interested in learning about Tris Speaker.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess you kind of glossed over coming up with this list. I mean, if I did something like this, I feel like I'd have to think about it for almost a month before I could kind of decide. So how long did that process take, and how much of it is based on war, and kind of like your thought process? And is it set in stone, or could it change between now and when you get to number one?
It's certainly not set in stone, especially because there's 8 players or 9 players that are still active on the list.
Right.
Guys like
Yeah.
Arenado and Betts and Shohei and Trout and Kershaw
Yeah.
and Verlander and Scherzer. Like these guys are still in the game, so inevitably they're gonna jockey on that list. They're gonna be moving, and I'm not sure how long Mookie Betts is gonna play, but probably another 7 years. And in 7 years, Mookie Betts is gonna end up, up there, higher than he is now. And
Right.
and I use kind of WAR as a general guideline. But if you use WAR as your only measure, then that's not going to be efficient or correct. It's just one of the many things that I use to judge how great a player was. And then their status in the hobby, their status in popular culture. for example, if you just looked at Jackie Robinson's WAR, he wouldn't land very high on my list, you know. But then you have to think, okay, who was Jackie Robinson and why does he matter? And that's where
Right.
you have to use your discretion as a collector, someone who's been in the hobby and been a lifelong baseball fan, to judge where does Jackie Robinson belong. And in my case, you know, the answer was number 12. You know, he's way up there, even though his WAR, I'm
Right.
not sure what it is offhand, but you know, the WAR is somewhere in the 50s, I believe, for Jackie Robinson, maybe 60s. But that's not the whole story for him, you know.
Right.
Uh,
Exactly. Well, you talk about integration, which is a great topic, and some of those players didn't get to play in baseball as long
right.
as others did, and the biggest debate I've heard over Babe Ruth, who most people would put at one immediately because of his WAR, because of his pitching, because of all that stuff, his impact at the time he played, is he did not play in an integrated league. So I
True.
guess was that a hard? I guess you'll come to it when you come to it. So I don't want to ruin the list,
Yeah.
but was that something you thought through when you got to him and some other players like that, Lou Gehrig and stuff like that?
It's certainly a valid thing to consider. I just try
Yeah.
to best judge how great a player was with the peers they played with. And obviously, it was a
Yeah.
different looking league in 1923 than it
Right.
um, and so there's been a lot of progress made in the,
Yeah.
you know, in the civil rights and integration arenas. But I can't say that I really factored it in. You just know that's what it was back then.
Right. Yeah, and kind of, I know they're two separate issues, but the steroid issue is something that me and me and another guy that's on YouTube were talking about, because he said has anybody been the best since Willie Mays? And I said, well, Barry Bonds, and he said, well, that doesn't count, and I said, well, it counts in the record books.
Right. Yeah.
So it just it, it's like, are we looking at the record book, or are we looking, are we just eliminating him like they eliminated him from the Hall of Fame? It's very hard when you get down to situations like that, I guess you
Right.
could say.
And so it's very important in these cases to see the nuance, to see the gray, because if you're a binary thinker, meaning it's this or that, then basically you're not correct on either count. It's incorrect to say that Barry Bonds was the greatest ball player of all time, and it's also incorrect to cancel everything that he did, and as if he never played. So whereas the truth
Right.
lies somewhere in the middle. The truth is to find, okay, when do we think that Barry Bonds might have started using steroids? Count the numbers up till that point, and then adjust the numbers that he accumulated beyond that point to some reasonable expectation of the kind of player that he was. And that's kind
Right.
of what I tried to do when I was ranking Barry Bonds. And needless to say, you adjust Ted Williams the other way because he missed 4 years to the wars. And so you add to Ted Williams' numbers and you detract from Barry Bonds's. And when you do that, you find that they're actually quite close. They're quite close on the list. And so I actually have Ted Williams a bit higher than Barry Bonds, but you have to adjust based on all these factors, which is why you're right. It's not a simple task to rank 100 players and figure out where they belong in relation to each other.
Exactly. It's and I'm going to get off the topic here in a second, but the thing about Barry Bonds that, like, people that are just looking at Baseball Reference don't realize is he was so dominant, they literally had to intentionally walk him so much compared to any other player in baseball history. And I understand he was on steroids. I'm not going to sit here, but it was literally like, if anybody saw Shaq when Kobe Bryant played for the Lakers, they started hack-a-Shaq.
Right.
He was so dominant, they had to figure out a way to do something against him. And that was the same with Bonds. It was like if you look at Bonds' walks compared to Babe Ruth's walks, like he missed so many plate appearances. It's crazy because he got intentionally walked. But
he broke the game.
Like
he broke the game.
Yeah,
because no one was
literally
as good as he was, and then he enhanced. So we had guys like Glenn Allen Hill that tested positive for steroids, but no one cares because he was Glenn Allen Hill. When Barry Bonds decided to use steroids, then he broke the game.
Yeah,
crazy. Because it was better.
So the next thing I wanted to bring up is just in general, what's your friends and family think about you being on YouTube?
They're supportive. My parents watch my channel and they love it. And I have other family members that tune in and watch, buddies of mine that tune in and watch, and they get a kick out of it. They think it's funny. They give me a little,
That's cool.
little grief about being Iconic Al, but it's fun. It's like, it's just, it's this, this dorky thing that I do that everyone knows that I do, and I'm fine with them knowing that I do it. I don't care. It's always been a part of, who I am and what I do.
That's cool. So have you? I've seen you go to some card shows here and there, and you take some video and stuff like that. Have you had that moment yet where you went to a show and like a non-content creator maybe came up to you and said, "Hey, I watched your channel." Has that happened to you yet?
Yeah, it's happened a couple times now. I've been to a couple local shows in Denver here, and I have had a couple, just a couple times, not a lot.
Yeah.
A really small channel, but like I have had people come up to me and say, "Hey, I've seen your videos, or I love your channel," or something like that. And I have these little rookie cards that I carry around with me that I handed out at the National last year, and I've had a bunch of them printed up. So I just make it rain with those things when I go to a show. I'm just like, here, check out my channel, check out my channel, check out my channel. Hey, you like baseball? Check out my channel. And I just pass them out to anyone, anyone that wants one that might want to check out the videos. But yeah, I have had a couple people recognize my channel and say, "Hey, I kind of get."
Cool.
That's funny. Really cool. Flattering. It's a lot of fun.
So I think I saw that one time you were with your wife at a show, and was she with you at any of these times? When anybody wanted your picture with you or anything like that, or like?
Went to the National with me, and I'm so grateful that she did that. She was a great sport about it, because she's not really into this stuff at all. She doesn't really understand. I mean, she understands why I'm into it and kind of that I'm really passionate about it, and she supports it.
Yeah.
And so she went with me to Atlantic City this past year in the National, and she was a great sport. She walked around the show with me for a little bit, and then she went and did her own thing. She left her. And that was fine. Like, yeah, just do your own thing. And it was just really touching that she would even come to a big show like that with me. And the time that I went to the National, I only had like 30 subscribers on my channel. So really no one knew me. So no one was going to recognize me at the National, because I was just introducing myself to the whole community, really. And since then, it's just, that was really what kickstarted my channel, was going to the National and meeting all those creators, the John Manginis, and then the Mike Baseball Collector, and Jake, Legends Never Die, and Adam, Vintage Sanctuary. And all these guys that I had watched their videos and had been following their stuff for a year or two, and then here they are. It was awesome.
That's cool.
I was able to say, "Hey, here's my channel. Check it out if you want to."
That I'm gonna go to my first National this year. Are you going again this year?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Nice. That's awesome. What days are you going?
I'm planning on flying in on Thursday morning, and I'm gonna stay at the Holiday Inn near O'Hare, and I'm going to go to the show on Thursday. I presume there will be a kind of a happy hour content creator event on Thursday night, and then I'll probably go to the show on Friday. And then I used to live in Chicago, so I know Chicago really well. I lived there for 6 years after grad school, and so I have buddies in Chicago. I'm going to crash with them the next 2 nights. But that first night, that's going to be like, check in, go to the show, go to the creator event, go to the happy hour, go to the show Friday. And then Saturday, Sunday, I'll probably just be hanging with buddies in Chicago. I probably aren't. I found that going for 2 days last year was enough for me. I was able to make my way around the show about 2 laps around. And I found the one thing that I was going to buy. And that was good. I was like, I don't need to be at that show for 4 days straight.
Right. That's awesome. I'm flying in Thursday morning and going to be there Thursday, Friday, and probably Saturday. So I'm excited to get to meet you face to face. That'll be cool.
Likewise. Where are you staying?
I'll be honest. I'm rooming with Dave. He has a channel called Legends Never Die. I just interviewed him like last episode. I don't know. I don't know. He said it's right next to the convention center. So I'll let you know though. It's probably the Holiday Inn. I don't know. So
you're rooming with Dave? It wouldn't be Legends Never Die, because that's Jake.
Legends of the Dugout.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Thank you for correcting me. Yeah, Dave stole the legend part from Jake, so
yeah, of course.
He gets us all. So, I really want to talk about. I always like to talk about these things that happen. I call them anomalies. So, about 5 months ago, you made a PSA reveal video, and do you know how many views it's at right now?
I don't. I know it was like my most watched video, but I haven't really
It's
checked in with
it's
it.
at 50. It's at 15,000 views.
Whoa.
It's like I had an SGC reveal like
Yeah,
a couple like a month and a half ago, and I'm at 800 views, and I was like, wow, this is crazy.
that's a
And I
lot.
looked at yours, and I'm like, I think the next closest video for you is like 1,500.
Uh,
So why why do you think this happened on this particular video? Like what made it get so many views?
I mean, the only thing I can think of was I made one of those thumbnails where I made like a dumb face. I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
no, maybe it was that. Maybe, maybe the algorithm really liked that dumbass face that I made, where I just like made this smirking like what, and I think I put a little word that said "yikes" next to my face, and so
Yeah.
people like drama. So maybe that was it. They thought, oh, this guy's gonna get hammered on this review or this reveal, and he looks stupid. So let's click on, see what this.
That was actually what I thought. That's actually what my thought was. My
Right.
thought was that your thumbnail actually, because if you look at the bigger channels, even if they're outside baseball cards, like they always, the key is like a headshot in the thumbnail. I
Right.
think because everybody does it, so I have to assume that a headshot works for some reason. So
Yeah. I think people are like, who's this doofus? And then they click on it.
I thought it was really well. You put yikes on there, and I thought part of the reason you put yikes on there is because PSA kind of slapped some of your cards sideways in there, and it kind of
Yeah.
came up in the comments, and people weren't very happy about it. I thought it would have been funny if you would have like. I think me and you both watch Paparazzi, and his best videos are when he's just like going, he's like PSA's horrible, like
Right.
this is what I'm talking. Like I wish you would have been a little bit more animated. You were just like, yeah, these are sideways. It's not very. You're just like, okay.
Yeah, I probably should have reacted. I probably should have reacted to it more and like really sold it and acted really pissed off about it. But to be honest, I wasn't. Like I expected some cards not to get slabbed, and a couple weren't. And I expected,
Yeah.
that I've seen quality control issues on other videos where, yeah, maybe the card wasn't framed perfectly, but I'm not a perfectionist. I mean, at the end of the day, every one of those cards that I got slabbed, even if it wasn't framed perfectly by PSA, I was happy with it. It was good enough for me. And there was that one T206 card that looked like it was literally like out of its holding place, but then I just tapped it a few times and it's fine now. Like it's it's totally in its holder now. So nothing was catastrophically damaged or anything like that. It was a good review, a good reveal overall.
Yeah. No, there were some bangers in there for sure. I think I don't want to downplay how good your cards were that you got back. They were better than any cards I've ever submitted, but you've had other card reveal videos with pretty good like equal cards and got 1,000 views. So I thought it was really interesting.
It is.
So so I know we talked, we didn't show anything yet, and I know people hate that, but I'm here to get to know people in the community. So if somebody's out there and they're like they haven't shown a card yet, well, it is what it is. I'm getting into the questions now where we get into some of your stuff. So
yep.
The first thing I wanted to get into is one of your early videos. You showed a signed Clemente ball on your channel, and the story was amazing. And I don't even care if somebody's heard the story already. I don't care. It's a great story. Can you tell a little bit again? And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll just kind of do like an abbreviated version of it. But basically, I was about 12 years old, and this is how I remember it, being 12. And the word was that my grandma needed some help cleaning out the attic, and there was some stuff in the attic that she needed moved around. And hey, I'll take any excuse I can get to climb around in the attic. It's just like I was a 12-year-old kid, and my brother was 9, and I was like, hell yeah, I'll get up there and like get dusty and move some stuff around. And then somewhere along the line, my dad was like, you know what? There was a box up there. I don't even know if it's still up there, but we had programs and tickets and some baseball cards, and I think we had some signed baseballs in there from back in the early days, like the 60s and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that got my attention. I was like, sweet, I'm gonna go up there and see if I can find that box. And so moved stuff around, found that box, and there were newspapers on top. I remember there being like a Harvey Haddock's Perfect Game newspaper on top, and then you flip through and there's like 1960 World Series newspapers and stuff like that. And then I got down to programs and tickets from the 60 World Series. Got some tickets here. These came out of that box.
I'm going to put you full screen.
All right.
There
So we got like
nice.
three tickets from the 1960 World Series.
Wow.
Game 1 and Game 2. I believe
That's
it was
sick.
game 2. Mickey Mantle hit 2 home runs. So, we're playing the Yankees, and, Mantle had a couple home runs in Game 2. And some other stuff that came out of there. These programs. 1960. Sorry, it's like backwards for me. But yeah.
Yeah.
1960 yearbook. That's the year that they won the World Series. And then
Awesome.
That's the program from the World Series. And,
Super clean.
Yeah.
Super clean.
These things, they've been in a dark box in the attic for 40 years, 50 years.
I've looked at the yellow one a couple times, and I kind of go back and forth if I would rather have it with somebody filling out the box score or have it clean. I almost feel like I'd rather have the box score filled out.
Same. Yeah.
Okay.
And then there were 2 baseballs that were rolling around in the bottom of that box. One of them was an official Warren Giles National League ball, which got me really excited right off the bat because, Warren Giles was the National League president back in the 50s. And then I started looking at the signatures. And here we have a 1958 circa signature for Bill Mazeroski. And this was signed before he hit the big home run. So really before anyone, really cared that much about Bill Mazeroski or before he had done something iconic. He's just known as a really good defensive second baseman, probably the best that the Pirates ever had. And this is a nice early signature for Bill Mazeroski. And you don't see the early signatures that often.
No.
Because really people wanted his autograph after he hit the home run, not before. And
exactly.
Let me get my Mangini glove for this last piece here.
Yeah.
And
I don't blame you, man.
This is the one that you probably were most looking forward to seeing, but this is a 1958 Pirates team ball that has a really nice, bold Clemente signature on it. Let me get this at the right angle. There we go. So Clemente is right in the middle of the side panel there.
I see my boy Grote right there. Not that he's not signed enough stuff in his career, but
but yeah, you have Clemente, Mazeroski, and Grote. Probably the three.
Those are my 3 favorite. That's sick.
But I have a previous video where I kind of go through all 24 signatures on the ball. Danny Murtaugh, I didn't drop it. Danny Murtaugh was the manager, and he's on the sweet spot there.
Wow.
And then someone did write in 1958 there, right above Danny Murtaugh. So that kind of dates the ball. And the signatures are just really bold. And you don't see too many balls from this time period with bold signatures like that. Most of them, by this time, had faded out. And this is really cool to have. It's a family heirloom. I'm so grateful to own it. My Uncle Jimmy was my dad's older brother. He was the one that got these signatures at Forbes Field back in the day. And I remember this is what my 12-year-old brain remembers, is talking to Jimmy on the phone once we found that stuff and said, hey, Jimmy, we found these programs, these tickets, these signed baseballs, and this one baseball that has Clemente on it. And you could tell Jimmy was, almost choked up a little bit when he heard that. He's like, I was wondering where that went. What happened to that thing? And he's and he said, Alan, I want you to take good care of that baseball for me. And that was the piece that really lit the fire in me to collect the all-time greats, to collect vintage, to collect at 12 years old, getting gifted or inheriting a piece like that has that kind of history. And basically, as you know, in Pittsburgh, Clemente is God. I mean, he is royalty in Pittsburgh. And to have a signature from my family of Clemente, it's the most meaningful piece in my collection, bar none.
Yeah, it gives me chills. That's the best story ever, man. That's cool.
Thank you, sir.
I love it. I could hear that story over and over again. That's crazy that you have it, and yeah, I just love that. Do you so talking about Clemente, my first video, I actually did a 20 card countdown of what I felt was my favorite looking Clemente card of all time. And I ended up settling on the 1971 card.
Beautiful.
And yeah. I just think it's iconic, and it's my favorite one. What would be your favorite Clemente card as far as looks go?
I think aesthetically, the 56 tops, I think is, I mean, just beautiful. He's like leaping. I don't actually own it, but he's like leaping, making a catch with this really colorful background, like
Yeah.
advertising in the outfield. There's a great portrait shot of Clemente on it. He's making this leaping catch, so it really encapsulates his defensive capability, and it's just a glorious card. I love it.
Yeah, I gotta let me pull out my I could grab it out of the case, but I got the reprint in here. Oh, here it is. Because in '98, Topps did a reprint on it, and
That's
this has really good color on it. So,
yeah, yeah. That's
but
that's my favorite aesthetically of all those cards. It's still
did you see? Yeah,
it's still oversized. I like that too. They're larger than I think 57 was the first year they went to standard size, and so 55 and 56 were larger. So it's a more, I guess, it's a larger scale and very vibrant colors. And the other thing about his first two cards, 55 and 56, he's still listed as Roberto. It's not Bob. And
yes,
it's a pet peeve of mine where after 56 and on up till a certain point, he's referred to as Bob by Topps, and I don't like that.
yep, yeah.
And
This 71 was Roberto. I think it
yeah,
was 70. Let me double check here. It was 1970. The gray. Oh, you can't see it in the camera. The gray border card
yeah,
was the first one they switched back, and I think it's a big reason why a lot of people like the Flair card because they had Roberto on there. So I one of my close friends in the hobby, John 3D80's kid, he refuses to buy one of the Bob Clemente cards because
yeah.
of that. So
Yeah, I mean, it's widely known that he didn't like that. I mean, his name wasn't Bob. I mean, Topps, I think, was
right,
trying to Americanize his name. At least that's what I think
yep,
was going on.
yep.
And yeah, let me see if I can stump you on a Clemente trivia question. Um,
Okay,
do you know the 1960s Clemente card that lists him as Roberto?
that those tops.
Not Topps?
It would be the Flair.
Weird. Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
why
I
I
got
like
that one
that.
back.
That's why I love that card because he's listed with his full true name.
Yeah, that's a really nice copy of it too.
Yeah, it's
7.
it's pretty crisp. It's a little OC, but it's a really crisp copy. And thankfully, I bought it long enough ago where I didn't have to pay an arm and a leg for it.
Yeah, they get pricey now.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. So here's my 63.
Oh yeah.
It's nicely centered.
Hmm.
It's hard to find these centered.
Yeah, that looks better centered than mine for sure.
And the back, the green is very prone to chipping, and
Yeah,
the back of this is pretty nice. And
definitely.
then my 56, unfortunately, the yellow is not as vibrant as the reprint card.
Still a beautiful
It's
card.
yeah, it's centered well, and the back has nice coloring on it.
Yeah, the cartoon
So
back. Love that. It's like the classic 50s card. I mean, it really is.
yeah, it is. It is. All right, let me get out of solo mode here. All right, here we go. All right, so the next question I had for you is, what's your favorite signature you got in person?
You know, I was thinking about that, and I'm going to have a trick response for you because it's not one. It's not one signature. It's a signed piece. My brother and I were
Okay.
going 20 and 30 ball games a year during 1998 through about 2001. And 99 and 2000 were the 2 years we went to the most games. We probably went to 25, 30 games a season. At that time, it was Three Rivers. And we, partially inspired by this old 58 team ball that we found in the attic, we thought to ourselves, well, we're going to games now. We're going to a ton of games. We get autographs at batting practice, and we like wait in the parking lot after the games. And we wanted to make a similar commitment to try to get team balls signed by the 99 Pirates and the 2000 Pirates. So I have a couple signed baseballs from the 99 Pirates, basically 24, 25 signatures with Gene Lamont. Remember
Wow.
him? Gene Lamont on
Yeah.
the sweet spot, and then you have like Chris Benson and Rich Loisel and Giles and Warren Morris and Turner Ward. I mean, these are names that you probably maybe remember.
Yeah.
KY, you got KY right there, and that's how
Nice.
he signed it. KY,
Yeah.
and trying to think, Francisco Cordova, and
Hey, Francisco Cordova.
yep.
When I was in elementary school, we had to do a TTM of our favorite baseball player, and I sent an index. I'd sent 2 index cards to him, and he sent it back, and he signed my 2 index cards.
Nice. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
these guys like they were pretty good signers. I mean, most of these guys, with one exception, Jason Kendall didn't sign anything, so he was notorious for avoiding signing autographs. So to get Kendall on these baseballs, one time we had to jump in front of his car to get his autograph. Literally, we were in the parking lot. We saw Jason Kendall pulling out, and we're like, this is the last guy we need for our team ball. And I literally had like 23 other signatures. You can't call it a team ball of the 2000 Pirates without Jason Kendall, the all-star catcher. And so we were like desperate. We jumped in front of his car, and we just like barricaded the road. And you could tell Kendall was like, what are these kids doing? And so then he like rolls down his window. We were holding up our baseballs like, hey, Jason, would you sign? And so he rolls down his window, and he's like, come on. And I was like, sorry, Jason, you're the last person we need on a team ball. And so he looked at it. He like smiled at us. He was like, okay, I get it. So he did sign our baseballs for us.
Wow.
And then the other time was, you remember at the Carnegie Science Center where they would have like Pirate Fest? And they'd have signing guests. And so we'd always go for Jason Kendall because that's the only other time we could get Jason Kendall's autograph was to go to Pirate Fest and wait in line and get Jason Kendall's autograph. So like that was pretty much it. Either jumping in front of his car or waiting in line at Pirate Fest was like the only times we were able to get Jason Kendall's autograph.
And what people don't understand, and you actually picked him as the best Pirates catcher of all time, but
yeah,
what people don't understand is, as I brought up earlier, my wife had a huge crush on him. He was literally like we moved into PNC Park in 99 or 2000. And even though we signed a bunch of free agents and stuff, he for a long period of time was the fan favorite, bar none. Like everybody loved it. Like it was crazy.
He was the heartthrob. All the ladies loved him, but he was also the best player. He was hitting 320 in some years, and he was an all-star catcher. I think he was an all-star 3 or 4 times, and ended up amassing more WAR than any other Pirates catcher in history, including Sanguian and others. But those 2 signed baseballs with the whole team on them, those are the 2 most meaningful. Those are the 2 most meaningful pieces to me.
That is really meaningful. How many, like, I know it's a rough estimate, but around how many games did it take to get that many autographs?
I have no idea, honestly. I know we went to 25 to 30 games both those seasons, but it was part of it was remembering who you had on the ball too, because okay, I have Rich Loisel, and I have Cordova, and I have Pat Mears, and I have this guy and that guy, and then you have to remember, okay, in your mind, like, who do you have and who do you need? Because you don't want to go up to a guy and have him sign the ball twice,
Exactly.
So that was part of the challenge, and I really don't know how many games it took to get the full baseball on either one of those. We just got them throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, that's cool. So who's the next question I had that I gave you a heads up on is, who's the favorite athlete that you bet?
Oh, yeah, this ties into Pittsburgh. We, growing up in Upper St. Clair, grew up down the block from Sean Casey. You know about Sean Casey?
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, he is. And I remember when he got drafted by the Indians, I forget what year exactly, but mid to late 90s. And we heard that this guy that went to our high school, Upper St. Clair High School, was a standout at Upper St. Clair High School. Hey, he got drafted by the Indians, and we kept track, and we went down, and we actually kind of stalked him. We went down to his house, knocked on his door, and we had some Sean Casey cards from like the 97 Bowman set, which was his first Bowman card. And we were like very shy about it. We just like, hey, is this Sean Casey's house? And I think it was his dad that answered. He's like, "Oh, sure is. Come on in." And so he like invited us in, and we had these Sean Casey cards with us. And he was like, "Sean, come on down, Sean. Some kids, some boys to see you." And so Sean Casey comes down, and he's like, hey guys, and you got some cards?" And we were like, "Yeah, we have some cards. Would you mind signing them for us?" And he was like, "Oh, absolutely, man. Like, cool, yeah." And so he was so friendly, and he was like, "What's your name?" And I was like, "I'm Alan. This is my brother Brian." And he's like, "Oh, thanks for coming down, guys. Like, I can't believe you guys made this trip, and you guys have my cards." And so he signed our cards for us. And a couple times after that, like we check in every couple of years, and he ended up going to the Reds. He ended up being an all-star a couple times. He actually ended up hitting 300 for a career. And so over the years, we'd stop down, shake his hand, and say, like, "You're killing it, man. Keep going. Like, keep killing it." And we any cards that we brought over, he'd insist on signing them. He'd say, like, "Oh, let me sign all those for you." And I'd have like pages of Casey cards, and he'd be like, "Let me sign them all for you." And I still have about 60 or so Sean Casey signed cards.
Oh my God! Did you bring any with you? They put away.
Absolutely. Well, here's a really awkward picture of me with Sean Casey. Here's a very young. Oh my God. That's a very young, iconic Al.
You got the Cordell Stewart jersey on?
Yeah. But there's me.
At least I was. At least I wasn't the only one with the Cordell Stewart jersey. That's awesome.
I'm trying to find the date on this thing, but it was like, this must have been late 90s, something like that.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's Sean Casey. That's in his house, actually. And then, he signed like 8x10s for us. And that one says, "To Alan, best of luck, Sean Casey." And then this is like a little side PC that I've maintained. Basically, it's all Sean Casey stuff.
That's awesome.
And these are all signed. Every one of these cards are signed by Sean Casey.
Oh my gosh.
The dude just insisted on signing everything we had. And like, I'm not going to sell it. I'm not going to but these are all just signed by Sean Casey.
I don't know how he's not your favorite baseball player of all time.
Well, he's certainly my favorite player that I've met in person. And
definitely.
And then the thing that capped off everything was one day when we went down. This is after he became like an all-star player. He was like, "Al, Brian, I'm just so grateful that you guys care enough to come down and check in every so often. And I'm happy to sign all this stuff for you as much as you have. I'll just sign whatever you have." And he's like, "I have one other thing I want to give you guys." And I was like, "Well, you don't have to give us anything. You've already signed everything we own." And so he brought out two game-used bats.
Oh my God!
Basically, Carolina Club was the kind of bat that he used, and so this is a game-used Sean Casey bat that he signed for us with his number, and it's got game use on it. It's not cracked, and it's got his tape job there, and if you see it on the handle, his number, 21.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's a game-used bat. It has pine tar all over it, and
that's crazy.
Personal model. My brother got one just like it. He still has it. But that was the coolest thing that I've ever really gotten, aside from my Clemente ball, was a Sean Casey game used bat that he gave me. So
you cannot beat game used items. Like, I'm sorry, I love cards, but nothing beats a game used item, especially if the player gifted it to you. That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. It's the only bat that I own. It's the only game used bat that I own. It's not a focus of my collection, but it's so cool. I love having it.
So when he went towards the end of his career, he went to the Pirates. That must have been crazy. Did you try to go to a bunch of games, and like, what was that like?
Interestingly enough, I think I was in grad school at that time. So I was so busy doing my clinicals and doing all my grad school stuff that I probably didn't appreciate it enough. Like I was so busy going through grad school that I didn't probably appreciate that time. It was only a very brief time. It was like, I feel like it was less than a season. It was maybe a season that he was there. And then he went to Detroit and then ended up, I think, retiring after that. But I probably should have taken the opportunity to go to more games during that 1 year. And unfortunately, I was just so busy doing my own thing that I feel like I missed out on seeing enough Pirate games while he was a Pirate. But, for me, it was Sean was Sean. He would be the same Sean regardless of where he's playing.
That's amazing. We're getting up on an hour here. I had a favorite game memorabilia card. Do
Yeah.
you could you show it real quick, and then we'll
Yeah.
get to the end. Okay.
It's not a major focus of my collection, but the way I look at it is like my top game memorabilia cards I have because I can't afford an autograph of these players, or autographs
Yeah.
don't really exist for these players. And so, number one is Babe Ruth. I have a Babe
Wow.
Ruth game used bat card from 2001 SP Legendary Cuts. So this is a really cool, and this is back in the day when this was actually game used material. It's not like some, junk game patch that never got worn. But this is from a Babe Ruth, and it says on the back from an MLB game, so it's legit game used Babe Ruth.
Is that a 1-on-1 too?
No. There's plenty of these. There's plenty of these out there, and I feel like if I can't afford a Babe Ruth signature, this is like the next coolest thing,
That's really cool.
And then I have the same thing for Lou Gehrig. So this is a Lou Gehrig game used bat card from 2003.
Nice.
2003 set. I think it's just a beautiful set. Topps Gallery Hall of Fame artifacts. Just a beautiful card.
That's great. That's definitely best first baseman of all time. So.
Absolutely. Yep. Bar none.
So,
Bar none.
You know, a controversial topic, but I think I might make a video on it. You know who I think is number 2? Who do you think should be number 2, I guess? And then I'll tell you who I think it is.
Oh, first base?
Yes.
I would say Jimmy Fox.
This is actually my answer. Stan Musial.
Okay.
He played over 1,000 games at first base.
Right. But he played more games in the outfield.
Yeah, but 1,000 games.
Yeah, right. You could consider him a first baseman. What I did with my list, with my rankings, I go with where he played the most games. That's how I track him. But yeah, you could make it.
He had such a long career. It's like 1,000 games is actually a lot for, you know what I mean? But
it is. Yeah.
But that's awesome, man. Let's if you're up for it, let's do 10 questions in a minute.
Sure.
All right. Have you seen this segment, or you think you can?
Yeah, I've seen a handful of them. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll start the timer after the first question.
Okay.
All right. Favorite seat in PNC Park?
First row.
Favorite pierogi in the pierogi race?
Sauerkraut salt.
Best 60s top set?
65.
Best chain restaurant?
Culver's.
Worst fast food restaurant?
Taco Bell.
What college team do you cheer for?
Pitt.
An overrated ballpark food?
I hate to say it, but hot dog.
Dream vacation destination?
Vancouver.
Walmart or Target?
Walmart.
Spell Roethlisberger.
Roethlisberger.
Spell it.
Oh.
I'll give you a second.
Okay.
Okay.
ROE.
Yep.
THLISBERGER.
Did you say LIS?
Yeah.
BERGER?
GER, yeah.
You nailed it. You're a Pittsburgher.
Sweet.
I really had a good time doing this, Al. Did you have anything you wanted to say or ask me before we head out here?
I was actually curious to get your take on, like, how do you feel like you got lucky getting the Clemente Collector channel, just like I did getting the Iconic Baseball channel?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like I wasn't jumping off the rooftop or anything because I didn't really realize how big YouTube was, and and I was only subscribed to like 10 channels, and I was like, well, my goal is to just collect Clemente and to get every card and to show it. So I was like, I'll just name myself that. And then as time passed and like I see guys who have bigger Clemente collections than me, I'm like, I hope these guys don't think I have think oh, I'm the expert on Clemente. Right. that wasn't like my you know what I mean? Sometimes I'm like, maybe the name maybe the name maybe rubs people the wrong way sometimes, you know what I mean? And I never meant it to be like that. But yeah, I felt lucky. I definitely did feel lucky about it. And I kind of honored to, have my channel name after him, because that is really, I collect other players and stuff, but I mean, it's kind of a distraction. There's, this, there's certain cards that it just takes time to either get enough money or to find the right one. And like, you need some distractions along the way.
Good answer.
Kind of how it is.
You've grown into the name, and it's really impressive watching the development of your collection over the last year. And you've really built up a really impressive Clemente collection.
Thank you. Yeah, I think
I have something to add to it. I have something for you that you might not even have, that I'm going to give you at the National if you don't have it. And it's a schedule, the 1973 Pirates schedule that has Clemente on the front of it. This was the year after he passed. It came out. It's almost like a memoriam to Clemente after he passed, and it's got like your interest rates on the back because it's sponsored by Dollar Bank. And if you unfold this thing, you have the whole Pirates schedule from 1973. And do you have this yet?
I do not have that, and I'd be honored, man. That's really nice of you.
It's yours now.
Thank you so much. I'll be honored to get it from you at the National. Thank you.
I'm
up to 60 playing days, cards / I have a couple coins and stuff like that. But it's been a fun ride, and at first I thought I would never collect oddball stuff, and the more I get oddball stuff, I love the history of it. I like this item here, how did it come to be? Oh, it was actually in this food product. And then showing somebody else who's interested in explaining to them, like, hey, this came in this iced tea package, like just different stuff. It's just so cool to not just be like, oh, this is a Topps card. You know what I mean? So,
I don't know if you remember Dollar Bank from back in the days in Pittsburgh, but this whole thing, like this, that's the back of it. 1973 Pittsburgh Pirates Dollar Bank schedule, and you unfold it and you have the whole Pirates schedule from the year. And
that is
technically it's not a playing days Clemente item, but it's pretty damn close. It's the year after he passed. So
yeah, I collect 73 stuff, and I'd be honored to have it. I think that's a piece of history. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I'll find you at the National or at the content creator event Thursday night.
Yeah, we'll find each other. Well, Al, if anybody, I don't know how you done, he's over 500 subs, but if anybody's not subbed to Al, and after this conversation, please go over, check out his channel, give him a sub. He's doing the 100 player countdown. I think he's around player 58 now. And also he does PSA reveals, which we talked about. So there's a lot more in his channel. He does VR responses. He's a great community member. And I'm glad we had this conversation, Al, and it was a pleasure meeting you, man. You're a great guy.
Likewise, Theo. It was a lot of fun. This is the first one of these I've ever done, really. Sat down and actually had an interview style video with anybody. So thanks for breaking me in, because this is the first time I learned how to use a streaming service or how to go live on anything. So thanks for bearing with me, and thanks for being.
Oh, no problem. All right. Well, thanks everybody out there for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one.
Thank you.